and welcome back to the OperaWire podcast. This is David Salazar here with my co-host, my brother, and co-founder of OperaWire, Francisco. We have a fun, interesting episode today, don't we?
Indeed. It's a very unfortunate conversation, I think, that's been spanning for the past few days. And it was interesting because actually this conversation starter happened a week after the actual video was published. And it was thanks to the fact that I found this video because someone had published about it. And I thought it was really important that we shared this commentary regarding opera.
So, for some context, before we show you what we're going to talk about, Timothée Chalamet, who is an Oscar contender for Best Actor this year and multiple Oscar nominee and one of the biggest box office draws in Hollywood right now, was doing a retrospective on his career, I believe.
It was a sit down with Matthew McConaughey for CNN and Variety. This was after the retrospective that he did. This was like a little sit down that he was having part of his campaign also to talk with Matthew McConaughey, who he starred with in Interstellar. So they were kind of like talking and reminiscing and talking about their careers types of.
So, right. So they're talking about their careers, and they get to a segment where Matthew McConaughey starts asking about whether films are becoming more and more impatient in their structure and knowing how a lot of movies they're just accelerating too quickly to get to the main conflict and not giving enough time for audiences to settle in and set up the story. And, Chalamet notices that this trend is happening, but he also establishes that it's really important that audiences are happy with what they're going to see at movie theaters.
Right.
At which point he takes a shot at the opera community. And instead of just describing it or relating what he'll say, we'll just let him say it in his own words.
Serious movie or something. And some people want to be entertained and quickly. I'm really right in the middle, Matthew, because I admire people, and I've done it myself, to go on a talk show and go, hey, we got to keep movie theaters alive. We got to keep this genre alive. And another part of me feels like if people want to see it, like Barbie, like Oppenheimer, they're going to go see it and go out of their way to be loud and proud about it. And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore. All respect to the ballet and opera people out there. I just lost 14 cents in viewership, but damn, I just took shots for no reason.
That's not a shot. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
but on that note,
Yeah.
you, Timothée Chalamet, are like a quad threat.
All right. So, thought.
Well, look, I respect Timothée Chalamet. He's a wonderful actor. He's a great actor. I think that he does bring up a point that movie theater culture is changing, that we've been talking about this. We go to the movies. We want to keep the movie industry alive. We're also filmmakers. I think people don't know that, but we do. We have directed 2 films. So I think it's really important to understand that this is something that is extremely important to keep movie theater culture alive, to keep movie theaters, to keep films being made in a way that they're not just throwaway, because I believe film is an art form just like opera and ballet. I just think this opera and ballet had nothing to do with the conversation. It ended up being something that was a jab at an industry that is struggling, right? But that still has a passionate following and that people love. People love opera. People are really passionate about. We've seen the results of his commentary. We've seen how everybody has joined together and criticized this commentary. We've even seen the LA Opera and the Vienna State Opera literally post about inviting him to the opera, and other singers as well. Because like he says, it's not true that no one cares about opera. A lot of people care about opera. There are thousands of opera houses around the world, and there are also thousands of performers and artisans and crew that also have performed around the world, that also work in this industry. And and after you give your point, I just also want to point something out that I think is really important.
Sure. So, I think that the sentiment, first of all, the context of the conversation, I think his point was that he's scared for the movie theater experience and he doesn't want it to become a niche experience, which I think you could argue because of streaming culture is slowly moving in that direction. And again, just to reiterate, we've made 2 feature films. We've struggled, with getting our movies into theaters. We know what that battle is like, and it's very real for filmmakers, and now people, though, the many years ago the idea of straight to home video was something that you look down upon, and nowadays getting it on a streaming platform is what you aspire to, because at the very least there's a chance that people will see it, which is something that's very challenging. There's a few points I want to point out, though, that are unfortunate about his comment. First of all, if he had instead said, I don't want film and movie theater going to become a niche like opera or ballet, I don't think anyone cares, because
Right.
I don't think anyone will argue that opera is not a niche. I don't think anyone will argue that ballet is not a niche. That's fine. But the problem is, he said, he made fun of it. He disparaged it, said no one cares. And then to top it off, which was more problematic, was I'm probably lost 14 cents, which again emphasizes I don't really think that these people are valuable, right? And then he acknowledges that he's taking shots for no reason, and then he makes
Right.
up some fake stereotypical opera voice that is clearly meant to diffuse the air. He's playing to the audience that's in the crowd too. They're all laughing at it, which again speaks to what people think about opera and ballet at a larger scale. Where I want to go with that is, this is a guy who studied at LaGuardia High School for the Arts. He's literally right behind the Metropolitan Opera, and on one level, it shows to me that he's ignorant of what opera or ballet is, because as you pointed out, a lot of people know about that. On the second level, I do wonder how people that go to a LaGuardia school, maybe they don't necessarily have to attend opera performances, but how are they behind the Metropolitan Opera? How are they behind Lincoln Center? And they're not they're not interacting with those art forms, because that's really, really what this comes down to is, he's an actor. He should be appreciative of the arts. I think his mother was a dancer.
Yeah, and his
How is
sister as
he
well.
making those kinds of comments, right? How is he making those kinds of comments? And also to another point, which is also problematic with where he draws that comparison is, again, filmmakers. I don't know if you're on Film Reddit or Film Twitter or Film Threads, but AI videos are taking over
Right.
those accounts. And people like Timothée Chalamet's face are being used to create those AI videos. And in that conversation, if you watch the whole conversation, at one point Matthew McConaughey does point out, AI is here, it's coming for us.
Right.
It's already here, and we have to figure out how we live in that ecosystem. Opera is in live art form. Performing arts are live art forms. Unless people are going to be okay with paying money for robots to go up on stage and perform, human beings will always be at the core of the opera experience. Human beings will always be at the core of live theater and ballet, which he disparaged. And those are actually more likely to have some sort of a renaissance, because once we become inundated by AI culture and AI created works, we're going to look to reconnect as humans, as a people. And I have a strong feeling that the opera has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Film is still a very young medium, comparatively speaking, and we're all kind of like looking at ourselves and saying, how are we going to manage AI? How are we going to deal with something artificial creating our entertainment? Whereas with opera and the arts, sure, in this country at least, we have the struggle of, the National Endowment of the Arts really doesn't supply much in terms of supporting the arts the way countries in other countries they do. We don't have arts being nationally funded, and we have a government that wants to take over the arts for propaganda. But the performing arts have survived centuries. Theater has survived centuries, and opera has survived centuries, and it will continue to do so as long as there are people that actually still care. And I think OperaWire and the community that we've interacted with in the opera world has demonstrated that opera very much is something that people care about.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really, really good point. I think the idea that he also said that nobody cares is also kind of disparaging towards his own colleagues. Because people think that opera is a different thing, but they forget that a lot of people involved in film have directed opera. For example, Ray Fiennes, James Gray, Simon McBurney, Christoph Waltz, Anthony Minghella, Liliana Cavani, Richard Eyre, Mikhail Haneke, Franco Zeffirelli, Werner Herzog, Woody Allen, William Friedkin, Lucchino Visconti, Roman Polanski, Julie Taymor, Mario Martone, Shirin Neshat. These are only a number of filmmakers and actors that have directed opera. And these are technically Timothée Chalamet's colleagues. Now, Hollywood has also been so infatuated with opera and classical music for many years, and for years, you know. I mean, you could go to The Red Shoes, Michael Powell's powerful film about ballet, or Black Swan, you know, where Natalie Portman won an Oscar for playing a ballerina. And then we look at Tar, about a conductor, nominated for 7 Academy Awards. Maria last year, where Angelina Jolie praised opera. The film was also nominated for an Oscar. Florence Forster Jenkins, about a woman who wants to be an opera singer but has a terrible voice, also nominated for 2 Oscars. The Pianist, about a very famous pianist who survived the Holocaust, won 3 Oscars. Maestro, about Leonard Bernstein. This year, Viva Verdi, which we'll get to, also nominated for an Oscar. 2 films about Beethoven, Immortal Beloved and Copying Beethoven. Amadeus won Best Picture. Chevalier.
And the new series coming out.
Yeah. Oh, and Mozart in the Jungle. Quartet. Primavera, which is Damiano Micheleto's first film about Vivaldi. And Marguerite was another film about, you know, Florence Foster Jenkins type character who was obsessed with opera and singing and can't sing. So the fact that even Hollywood and cinema has been obsessed with telling the stories of these great masters, or even just making up a story like Tar, tells me that classical music and opera and ballet, they're here to stay, and they're art forms that people are enthralled by. So I do think we have to have a conversation about the arts, and every art form in any way, shape, or form is intertwined. Opera and ballet as is intertwined into film as film is intertwined with the industry of opera and ballet. And that is something that nobody can say it's not. And don't forget, he did Wonka, so he had to learn to sing and to dance. And where did the musical genre come from? It comes from opera. Without opera, there's no such thing as musicals.
And just to kind of jump off that, and as we transition to the next topic we wanted to hit, which is related, I think what this shows is there's a lot of ignorance around what opera is and what opera culture is, and it's also, like, probably in his mind, again, this is coming from someone that studied literally across the street from Lincoln Center, that the classical music industry is one of elitism and stuffiness, and it's part of that is on people, you know, being educated and seeking out education, you know, because you know someone so important like him, who's at the forefront of culture, you know, who's, you know, wants to be known as this great artist as he himself has alleged. And I don't criticize him for that, because I do think that that's more of a sports mentality. We never attack athletes for saying I want to be the very best, but when an artist says I want to be the best, I think I'm the best, we do come after them a little bit. And I think with him that's part of the reputation that he's garnered because of those comments. But again, if you're going to say that, then you also you put yourself at an upper echelon where we're expecting more from what you say when you open your mouth. Because if you want to be the very best, it's about how you carry yourself around the world. And him saying that speaks to his ignorance. However, I also say, as an industry, how did the Met not touch his soul, or how did classical music in Lincoln Center not touch the soul of him when he was in LaGuardia student? What is going on with outreach? How are the arts not cultivating and supporting one another? And I think that goes the larger picture here is that the arts themselves are not helping one another, are not supporting one another. The opera industry, you know, right now, as you mentioned, Viva Verdi is nominated for an Academy Award for Best Song. Ana Maria Martinez is soprano that's on the recording. She will be at the Oscars, and she will be attending with the non-fellow nominees, but she will not be performing. In fact, out of 5 songs nominated for the Oscar for Best Song this year, only one of them will get a performance.
Two.
2 will get a performance. 2 out of 5. And I think it's a shame because, again, it's not just the opera song that's getting cut out, but it is speaking to how popular culture is not doing anything to support the other art forms. The Academy, which is supposed to be a supporter and a proponent of art, cinema, obviously, but part of cinema, it's cinema being the total art form, the art form that's capable of bringing everything together, just like opera, for example,
Mhm.
does for live theater. Um, they should be inclusive of all kinds of musical styles, regardless of in the nomination. They're the ones that nominated the songs. How are they the ones that nominate the songs and not supporting their Academy members' choices? Why? Because they don't think it would fit a broadcast? Well, watch them do a James Bond retrospective or do some take 5 minutes to do a song related to some random Pixar franchise. Not taking shots at Pixar because I love Pixar. But you know what I mean? They did that in the past where they didn't put
Well,
nominations in.
yeah, last year. Well, last year I think it was very clear that nobody wanted to perform the songs, but still they spent time doing a James Bond retrospective. And this is not the first time that we see songs not be uplifted by the Academy. It just feels sometimes it's a popularity contest. And Diane Warren said something really interesting that when she was nominated for one time, they did not want to perform her song. And Lady Gaga stepped in and said, well, if you're not performing all the songs, then I'm not performing. And I think this year we don't have a Lady Gaga because this year, the gals from Golden, they're not very well known. It's their This is their first time that they're getting all this recognition, so they really can't make that plea. And Miles Caton, I think, will be performing with the band of for Sinners. And again, they're not Lady Gaga. They're not Rihanna. They don't have the same power that these people do. I was kind of confused why someone like Kesha wouldn't even be broadcast. She's pretty famous. And of course the Train Dream song is a folk song. I think artists need to stick together and they need to, uplift them. Unfortunately, I think this year because there is no one like that just it's not happening.
But it shouldn't be on a Lady Gaga to step in and say, "Hey, support my colleagues." It should be on the Academy saying, "These are the people that were nominated, and these are the people that we chose to honor, and we're gonna stand by that, and we're gonna give them their spotlight. Either do them all or do none." Because
Agreed.
I think that if you're gonna set the standard, what basically you're telling me is that the 2 songs that are getting to perform are the winners. One of them is the winner because that's basically what you're telling me.
I mean, we all know that it's gonna. We all know right now that Golden goes in as the front runner. It's won every major award. It's the top song of last year, and that's great. Nobody is saying that the song isn't great. It's a wonderful song, but I think that as an award ceremony, we need to uplift all types of art forms, folk music, pop music, opera, and this goes back into the idea that this basically helps Timothée Chalamet's argument that no one cares.
Well, I think
Because
sorry, and
because
I'm gonna step in real quick. What's ironic about this is everyone talks about opera as the elitist art form that's not inclusive. Whereas Hollywood, unfortunately, more and more, they're looking like the ones that are elitist because they're the ones that are not inclusive. And this behavior, in first Chalamet, and now how the Academy is behaving towards 3 nominees,
Yeah.
3 nominated songs, does tell you a lot about what their attitude is and makes them look elitist. Like only a certain kind of you have to have a certain level of popularity to be allowed to perform on my awards show. That's quite frankly bullshit.
It's true. It's true. I mean, this happened 10 years ago with David Lang's Simple Song Number 3, where 2 of the songs were not performed. Another one, I think it was Scarlett Johansson was on one of the songs, and Sumi Jo was on the Simple Song Number 3. And I remember watching her interview on Variety, and she was pretty pissed off, and so was David Lang. And they said we should be allowed to be performing. People should be able to hear these people's voices. And it's not a runtime thing. I'll tell you, it's not a runtime thing.
They always go over. They always go over.
These award shows always go over. They have no reason to cut it from the broadcast. I think honestly, it's a miss on the Academy. It's a miss for the opera industry. It's a miss to expand people's awareness and broaden what they're listening to. Because at the end of the day, every single art form should be uplifted. And this is what I was talking about in our last 2 podcasts about the Grammys. Like the Grammys, classical performance should not be relegated only to the premiere ceremony. They should find a way to put the classical performance within a Lady Gaga performance, within a Tyler the Creator performance. They should try to find a way to intertwine artists so that they're collaborating. We've seen that on the Grammy stage where we see a country singer and a pop singer, or a rap artist and a country singer intertwine their musical ability and find it. Well, I point one more thing. I thought it was genius that the Grammys decided to put in one segment the best new artists. They had 8 artists performing back to back to back to back. It was a 20-minute segment. That's what the Academy Awards should do. They should make a 15-minute segment for the 5 songs, and if they want to give a minute to Ana Maria Martinez and the Train Dreams and the Kesha song with the Diane Warren song, like they did a few years ago, where they give Barbie all the running time, and then they gave John Baptiste and then Becky G and then the Killers of the Flower Moon 1 minute, then do that. But at least give everyone a moment. And I think if you want to really do that, then put it into one segment and just do all the songs in 15 minutes. And it will probably save you a lot more time. Granted, the Grammys is like a concert where there's performance to performance back performance. This is an award show. But honestly, we already know what to expect from the Academy Awards. They're going to give one award, give a video tribute, do this. So you might as well just figure a way to do it in the most economically and efficient way.
Yeah, I think it's disrespectful and it's unfortunate. And we didn't necessarily want to do the podcast about this, but we just felt that these two topics were, super related. Ana Maria Martinez's news broke today, where she did confirm that she was going to be at the awards, but that she wasn't be performing. And obviously the Timothée Chalamet conversation. A lot of people have voiced their opinions. I think it's great. I think I do question, attacking his talents. Because I do think that whether you like it or not, Timothée Chalamet is a very successful artist who clearly, he's also, I don't want to use he's really young because he's 30 years old and at some point you're an adult, but he definitely should have chosen his words wiser. I think I think what's really frustrating about that whole situation is that we can understand what he's trying to say, but the way he chose to say it and then how he chose to make light of it by insulting other people was immature and quite frankly irresponsible from someone of his stature. So I guess as a bonus, is he going to win the Oscar, friend? I know that the Oscar night is your Super Bowl and Academy Award season is your playoffs. So is he going to win Best Actor for our audience out there who might come against him now?
It's interesting because I think a lot of the conversation with Timothée Chalamet has been really strong throughout award season. He did win the Critics' Choice, and he did win the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Actor. But the industry, for some reason, has been a little bit on the no Chalamet type thing. He did lose this actor award, SAG award usually, but of course he did win last year, so everyone thought he was going to lose. But I think the bigger surprise was that he lost the BAFTA to an actor who was not nominated, Robert Aramayo, who is in a film called I Swear. It comes out the 24th of April, and it's being released by Sony Pictures Classics. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking that because Michael B. Jordan won the SAG award and Sinners is really strong and it has a big chance of winning Best Picture, it might end up going to Michael B. Jordan. I mean, we'll have to see. I think I was reading an article about Hollywood Reporter saying that people have not liked Timothée Chalamet's campaign. It's been excessive. So I don't know. And, I'm not going to criticize people. I think it's wonderful that you want to win an award, win an Oscar. I mean, who doesn't want to win an Oscar? I mean, it's interesting because this conversation bookends with Alan Pearson and Katie Solomon's conversations about the Grammys. So right now we're ending this conversation with the Oscars. I mean, I think it's really great that you want to win an award. And I think when you want to win an award, you should uplift. I think when I watch an Oscar speech or anything, for me, they should be inspiring. And this campaign, this stop where he disparaged did not inspire. It created a controversy that should have never happened within the opera industry.
Well, maybe if he wins an Oscar, maybe he'll apologize to the opera community and the
I
ballet
don't think
community,
so.
and everything will be right in the world. But anyways, this was fun. It was kind of an impromptu, but we just given the clash between our two professions, it just felt like it was the perfect episode to kind of put together. And as always, like we'll see what happens. We'll be back soon for another episodes that will focus on season announcements. And in the meantime, like my brother said, we have 2 interview podcasts with Alan Pearson and Katie Solomon about the Grammys and awards campaigning, which I hope you check out. And as always, we have a couple of exciting operas coming up. I'm going to Miami for Turandot for the Florida Grand Opera, and then Monday we have Tristan and Isolde at the Met. So stay tuned.
And I'm going to Trementia at the Washington National Opera. Very excited for them at Listener Auditorium. And we'll definitely talk about those 3 operas, which all have star casts. Denise Graves is directing Trementia. Alexandra Kurzak is making her role debut in Turandot. And of course, I think what we've all been expecting is this Tristan and Isolde with Lisa Davidson. So we'll definitely get back to you on that, and we'll definitely talk to you. So listen to our podcasts where you find your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X.
And thank you so much for being here with us, and we will see you at the opera.